Hello, and thank you for joining us today for today's Agile Live webinar. These webinars are focused on helping you scale Agile faster, easier, and smarter. My name is Matt Badgley. I'm joined here today with Mark Debian. I want to say hello, Mark.
Hello, Matt. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining.
Great. And today we're going to show you how VersionOne can help you succeed with Scaled Agile Framework. Before we get started, I want to mention a few things. So first off, this webinar will last us approximately about 60 minutes. We will have about a 10 to 15 minute question and answer period toward the end of the presentation. During the presentation, all participants will be on listen-only mode. So if you want to submit a question, please go ahead and add it to the chat feature in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. If we don't get to your question today, our plan is to respond to all remaining questions directly. Now today's webinar is being recorded, and we will be sending out the link of the recording and to the slides to all of you. You can claim a 1 PDU credit for attending today's webinar. Our provider ID is 357. The webinar ID is V1101. And as always, we ask you and encourage you to join the conversation on Twitter today using hashtag AgileLive, hashtag SAFE, or hashtag ScaledAgile. Now that you know a little bit about us, I'd like to go ahead and ask you guys to do us a favor. You'll see a quick poll on the screen. If you can, just click and let us know a little bit about you. Just click directly on the screen and let us start understanding who we have on the call with us today. As you can see, we have quite a few others. I love that. Product managers. I'll give you guys a few more seconds and see who we got. Okay, just a few more seconds and then we'll close the poll here. Great. It looks like we have quite a few product managers, so that's an awesome audience for us. Thanks for coming and joining us. Some release train engineers, that's absolutely applicable. Some executives, thank you. And the others, hopefully you guys all get some really great stuff out of this today. And it's also exciting to see the developers, testers, and UX folks join us today too. So thanks for jumping in. We're also going to have a heavy emphasis today on the DevOps side of things too. So you're going to see a lot we'll hear a lot about that today as well. So thanks for jumping on. Now this is a high-level view of what Mark will be taking us through today in just a few minutes. VersionOne provides a centralized environment for simplified adoption and implementation of SAFe. It supports all the SAFe's constructs, practices, and metrics. This includes, of course, the communities of practice, which you can see there on the left, and the DevOps, you can see down on the bottom. We frequently collaborate with the thought leaders there at Scaled Agile, and we exchange tons of ideas with our customers and them as well. We're continually working to ensure VersionOne platform continues to provide the strongest support for SAFe as it evolves. As we get ready to look at VersionOne today in detail, I want to draw your attention to the SAFe's primary construct, and that is the value stream. So success with SAFe really depends on organizing around value streams, as opposed to, say, we organize around projects. The value stream, as we know it, is a lean construct. Now we know it's been around for a while, and this lean concept, the idea around an essential activity around a value stream management is that of identifying the stream's delays and waste, and of course, delivering from idea to our customer. By addressing those delays, rooting out our waste, it then allows you to improve overall stream lead time. Now, in most software organizations, the measurement of improvement and improvement around the value stream is usually limited to what we call the value creation, this kind of left side of the diagram here. The value creation is all about including planning, development, definition of work, and of course it culminates with user stories being done by a team. But we know that the value stream hasn't actually realized value until we get out and deliver something to the customer. This is what we refer to as the value delivery side. In most organizations, this part of the value stream is a black box. Of course, except for those people whose job is to deploy and package. This means that the people involved in the planning and the development lose sight of the value as they've created once it's handed over to the packaging and deployment folks. While it also means when they deploy the code, they're in the dark about what the business value and the intent that was embodied when handling that code and handing it off to the customer. So in other words, business value and visibility that should be continuous throughout the entire value stream goes dark until it crosses over into the delivery part of the value stream. Now we're pointing this out for a couple reasons. The first being delivery and DevOps are going to receive much more emphasis in SAFe this year. And the second one, of course, is that VersionOne has built-in capability to manage and maintain business visibility across the whole value stream and to measure and improve our DevOps performance. So just now before I hand it over to Mark, I want to ask you guys one more quick poll. And that's a really tiny font, so let me kind of read this out to you guys. The question is how well does your organization unify strategy development and delivery for end-to-end business value visibility? So you can kind of see it on a scale of 0 to 5. 0, not really at all. 5 being we do it pretty darn well. And it looks like we have a lot of folks kind of landing in the middle zone, either neutral zone, well, we have some of it. 2 to 3s. Which is definitely a pattern we see with our customers today. We definitely see some folks that have some level of continuous development or continuous integration, and maybe even continuous delivery. And then, of course, the tying out that visibility, that unified end-to-end, is what we're after today. So I'm going to share this with you guys. So now let's go ahead and take a look at it. And Mark, you want to go ahead and take it from here?
Absolutely, Matt, and thank you again for going through the intro there. So what we're going to be covering today is really how we're going to walk you through VersionOne across 4 different scenarios. So there's going to be a start where we go over the admin or the system admin role. Then we're going to go through portfolio director or a portfolio director style role. Then we'll look at release train engineering and how a release train or the program manager would go through that. And then finally, the team member and what a team member would look like in VersionOne. So we're going to cover those 4 areas. We're going to start by going in and setting up a basic beginning starter state implementation inside of VersionOne. So we'll start first by going into VersionOne and setting up those details. So let's jump into the demonstration, and we'll go right into that now. So what I'm showing here is the VersionOne, is the main VersionOne planning area of our application. If you look across the top here, we've got portfolio, product, PI, and sprint planning. So this is where you can go in and do most of the planning for your organization. I'm going to start there, as I mentioned earlier, as the system administrator of VersionOne. So VersionOne is a little bit different than some of the other solutions that are out there, where we centralize a lot of that administration, but you can also have other folks help you along with that as well. So I'm going to start looking at some of the admin things that we can do to set up a brand new instance. So this is a brand new instance of VersionOne. So as I go over here to the right-hand side and we look at the admin section, I'm going to start by going in and creating my planning levels. So planning levels is where we're going to set up our enterprise. Under the enterprise, we're going to create a portfolio. Under the portfolio, we're going to create our Agile release trains and then our program increments. Once we're done setting up those planning levels, then we're also going to create our teams so we can track our teams when we get down to the team level. And then finally, we're also going to look at 2 other things in order to configure VersionOne. That's going to be list types and then a configuration so we can set up and manage terminology for the SAFe setup that we've done here within VersionOne. So those are the 4 things that we're going to look at on the admin side. Let's start by going into the planning levels, and we're going to go in and create a company, and then we're going to create a portfolio and some details underneath that. So the first thing I'm going to do here under my planning levels admin is go in and create a brand new enterprise. So at the enterprise level, we're going to create a company called Easy Support. And that's going to be a company. So in this case, I'm going to leave it as enterprise. I'm just going to go down in and put an end date in there of a couple of years out into the future. Hopefully we'll last beyond 2019. But this is going to help me with some additional reporting that we can do. So all I've done is just gone in and put a company name in there, and we'll go ahead and save that. Once I save that, under my system all, which is kind of the root level, I'm now able to see the Easy Support company. The next thing I want to do is create my portfolio. So I'm going to add a planning level under the enterprise. And then it automatically defaulted to the next level. These levels you can set, and you can change these. It's just one of the list types, and we'll be looking at list types in a moment here. But this is really where we can set up 3-level safe, or if you're doing a value stream in there, you can include that in and do a 4-level safe. So in this case, I'm going to create a portfolio. And the portfolio that I'm going to create is for development products. So this is the portfolio. Let's just put port in there so we know what that one is. And at this point, I'm going to also select a sprint schedule. We're going to use one sprint schedule. I'll just use the default one, which is a 14-day or a 2-week sprint schedule. I'm also going to come down here and also put in the date for me, moving that forward, but I'm going to move this out just 1 year. We're going to go out to 2018 for this one. We'll go ahead and save that portfolio. Now as I go down one level below that, now I have my enterprise, my portfolio. I'm going to create 2 more of these just like I did that one. Instead of creating the value stream, which would be normally the next level if I'm doing 4-level safe, I'm just going to create a release train. And for Easy Support, we're going to be working on the call center. This is in my ART, or my Agile Release Train. So this is work that we're doing to create a call center application. And I'm just going to put the Agile Release Train in there. And I'm also going to select the same sprint schedule. So the default. After I select the sprint schedule, I'll just leave the date as it is now. So one thing you can start to do in these planning levels as well, so that we can do capacity planning, is you can go in and you can create a target swag or a target estimate point. Swag is feature points. So if I say we want to do 100 feature points, we could do that in here. And then the target estimate, if we're at a lower level, we can do target story points as well. So we can start to put this in there, and that'll help us when we go and start doing some capacity planning out there. So that's all I'm going to do at the ART level. We'll save that. And then we're just going to create one more level under that ART. So the last thing we want to do is create our program increment. So that's one more planning level underneath there. So we're going to create call center PI1, and we use the same sprint schedule one more time. And then I'm also going to change the dates on this now. So this is going to be, let's say this one's going to end in May, and we'll make it 2017. So PI1 is going to go from 228 to 5/1. And then we can also let's put our target in here as well. So we're going to put 100 swag and 100 estimate points in there. And these are our feature points, and these are our story point estimates. So I'll save PI1, and I'll do a new one actually. I'm also going to call it call center PI2. And then that's going to start on, say, 5/1. And we'll go to my birthday. And I'll save that. All right, so that took about 3 minutes. And in about 3 minutes, what we've done is we've established the enterprise, the portfolio, the release train, and the program increments. This is now where we're going to be able to hand this over into a portfolio director or someone that's managing this portfolio, so they can go in and start to work the details for this portfolio. So that's all I'm really going to do here for the planning levels. Again, if I wanted to mix this up or add a value stream in there or put additional portfolios, I could absolutely do that. But this is really enough to get me started in terms of managing this portfolio and moving forward there. The next thing that I want to set up are my teams. So we're going to go two tabs over on the admin, and we're going to create two teams out there. So the first team is going to be apples. So we're just going to do fruit here. Apples, bananas, and cherries. Okay, so all I did was go in and put those in there. You can put in target velocity and target swag at the team level as well, and that will be used when we do our PI planning, so we could go in and change that later and put those details in there. So now I've set up the planning levels, I've set up my teams. The last thing that I want to do is set up the different levels that I have for my portfolio items. So I'm going to do that one admin tab over, again, into list types. And when I look at my list types, the first thing we have in here is under the portfolio items section is the types of portfolio items that we want to use. In this case, for this easy support, we're going to use epics and we're going to use features. So if I wanted to add capabilities in here, I could just simply add another type and put capability in there. This is another differentiator between VersionOne and some of the other solutions. I know some of the tools out there that are defect tracking tools really only let you have an epic, but you can have as many levels of portfolio items here as you want. That's going to allow us to roll up to the higher levels as well as break that all the way down to the story level. So that's one thing that we want to change and make sure that we go ahead and go forward with. The other thing that we have down here are the portfolio item statuses. So you can either use the existing ones that are there. I've modified a few of these just to match with the ones that are prescribed by or that SAFE you might see in some of your SAFE training. So funnel, review, analysis, implementing, and done. If I want to add more statuses, we can certainly go through and add more statuses as well. These are the statuses that we're going to use when we look at our portfolio Kanban. So now that we have our portfolio items set and we can now add epics and features, the last thing that I want to show you before we go in and start actually putting work into VersionOne are the configurations. So one more tab over here, we're going to go into configurations. And the only thing I'm going to show you here are some of the terminology changes that I've made. So you can go in and adjust these based on how you want your process and your terminology to work. I've only changed a couple of them, and you can see the ones that are highlighted in green here. So I changed the word goals to be objectives. I've added, instead of calling it a release or something else, I'm calling the planning levels, those planning levels, and you saw me set that up already. Instead of an iteration, I'm calling my time box a sprint, and my releases now are called PIs. So those are really only the 4 terminology changes that I've made here. You can certainly make as many of those as you want to go ahead and match whatever process you're using within your solution. But this is just one example of going in and changing some of the terminology. And if you don't see a PI, if you see release, for instance, this is where a system admin can come in and change that and make sure that that matches the terminology that you want to see. All right, so those are all of the admin changes that I said we were going to make, and we're basically done. We're done with setting up VersionOne. Now it's time for us to go in and start to actually put work into the solution. So we're going to leave this now. I'm going to switch roles. So now I'm going to become the portfolio director of Easy Support, and we're going to start by going back into VersionOne, the planning area. And we're going to start by doing some things here under portfolio planning. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to establish our strategic themes and a budget for these strategic themes. And then we're going to go into this portfolio tree and the portfolio Kanban and start looking at some of the details there of things that we can set up. And we're going to start to build out our epics and our features in the portfolio tree. So we're going to start by going into strategic themes. And I'm going to create a couple of them in here. So I'm just going to add 3 of them actually. So we're going to go revenue growth. And the enter button is the save and new, so it makes it very easy for you to create new ones. I'm actually going to change the planning level here. Let's put this under Easy Support Company. The second one is going to be customer satisfaction. These are just the high-level details. I might put the description in and some other things later. I can also change the levels here and make these portfolio level. So customer satisfaction is another strategic theme, so we want to improve our customer sat. And then the last one that we're going to do will be, let's call it innovation. So innovation, we want to do some work under innovation. We'll make that a portfolio level as well. So you can put as many strategic themes in as you want. When I save those are all going to show up here. The last thing actually I want to do is change this planning level. So I'm going to change this back down into easy support as well because I put revenue growth up at the high level there. So this button here on the left-hand side, this represents my planning level selector. So when I click on that black button, now I can go in and look at my planning tree, and you can see this fictional company that I've set up here and all the different planning levels. So I'm going to start up at the high level of easy support at the company level, and I'm going to apply this. Now what this is showing you is how the backlog from the PIs or the program increments all the way up to the company level would roll up. So we're going to go ahead and just apply that. So now I see my strategic themes in there, and now I'm going to create a budget for these various different strategic themes. Let me fill in that portfolio there. Now I'm going to create a budget for these strategic themes so we can go ahead and make sure that when we have work that we can roll that up to those budgets. So when I create a new budget for this, we're going to create a strategic theme budget by percentage. And we're going to start that, let's start it today, February 1st, and we're going to do a 12-month budget. And in this case, we're going to do it by strategic theme. Now there's different ways that we can create budgets. We can do it by points. We can do it by currency or dollar amount based on a run rate, or we can do it by percentage. So in this case, we're going to budget by percentage, and we'll go ahead and save that budget. So now I have a strategic themes by percentage budget. When I go into my budget, I can put some numbers in there. So let's say 50% for revenue growth, 30% for customer sat, and 20% for innovation. So as the portfolio director, this is how the company has decided we want to allocate our work for the year, 50%, 30%, and 20% for those various different strategic themes. That's all I'm going to do here under the strategic theme area. Now we're going to go one more area over. We're going to start to actually put in our portfolio items, which will be our epics and our features, and we'll be able to then align those to these different strategic themes. So by going under portfolio planning and the portfolio tree, I'm able now to get to, under easy support, what will be, when I start building it out, a portfolio tree. So I'm going to add my first portfolio item using the button on the right. And the first item that I'm going to create is going to be, say, new product upgrades for call center. There's some nice upgrades coming for that. I'm going to leave the planning level here for this at the easy support level. And then the type for this, and you saw those types earlier under list types, is going to be an epic. I'm also going to align this to a strategic theme. So these new product updates are really going to be aligned to the customer satisfaction strategic theme. So I'll add that in as the customer sat. Later on, I'll put my description in there, but I can also go in and put my business value scores. So this is how important this is to the business on a scale of 0 to 100. How important is this in terms of time criticality? And then how important is this in terms of risk reduction? So I'm just going to put some basic numbers in there. And then the last number that I'm going to put in for this specific epic is going to be our swag. And our swag is a rough order of magnitude estimate for the feature, or the epic in this case. So I'm just going to put this could correlate to how many story points we think it would take to build this. So in this case, I'm going to put 120 story points to get that work done. So these are values that are going to be used in a little bit to calculate my weighted shortest job first. I'm going to leave them like this for now. Actually, let me change this to 125. We just had a recalculation there. So I'm also going to put a planned begin and a planned end date at the epic level. So I think this is going to be probably a year-long thing. So we'll just make this a year-long epic for now, and we're going to save that. So not a lot of detail needs to go in there, but when I save that, we have our very first epic, and this is this new product update for call center. The next thing that I want to do is put in my features under that epic, so this is going to align to that. So I'm going to add a child portfolio item. We're going to create feature number 1, And it automatically put in feature. We're going to align this one again to customer sat in terms of strategic themes. We'll leave the rest of that, but I do want to put a plan begin and a plan end. So we're going to start this on the 6th of February, and we think we're going to finish this one by the 6th of April. So this is feature number 1, and we'll put one more feature in there. So feature number 2, and this one's actually going to align to innovation and customer satisfaction. So one of the things you can do with strategic themes is align it to more than one specific theme. So I've got that aligned to 2 specific themes. My planned begin date for that one is going to be, let's say, the 27th of March, and we're going to go all the way through to, let's say, May 25th. All right, so now when I expand my epic, I see I have 2 different features. This is a nested view here. So I've got the tree where I've got feature 1, feature 2 rolling up into those epics. The next thing that we would do is we would go ahead and do more detail on this. And if I did want to see the weighted shortest job first, I can go over here, and you can hopefully see that on the screen where I'm calculating a weighted shortest job first number. That's 0.96. So if I had a lot of epics or a lot of features, I could then use that number, that calculation, which is basically adding up the cost of delay and dividing it by the swag so we can get a weighted shortest job first number out there. And then we can use this to prioritize all of my epics in my solution. So when I look at the epic details here, we're seeing that that weighted shortest job first number is automatically calculated. All right, the last thing I'm going to do for this specific portfolio director here is I'm going to go in and I'm going to create some child stories. So we're just going to create a few new stories under this. So story 1, very cleverly named. We'll put points on that. So we're going to put 5 on that one, and we're actually going to align this to a team. So we're going to give this to the Apples team. And then we're going to create a few more in there. So there's story 1. We're going to create just a few more. Story 2, we're going to give this one to the bananas team. And we'll put an estimate on that one of 8. And story 3, we're going to give that one to the cherries team. And we'll put a 13 on that. So this is something that might be done, early on or later once you know more details. There's a couple places where you can actually build out the stories on that feature. One thing that I do want to do here is I want to drag this story 3 down to feature 2. And one of the things that I'll show you in a little bit, but where you can do it here as well, is we want to change the planning level for these stories and these features. So right now we have them here at the company level, but I want this feature actually to be down here at the Agile Release Train level. So we're just going to change the features. We want that to align down here at the Agile Release Train. And then we're going to change the stories to align down into these PIs. So PI1, PI1, and PI2. And all we're simply doing here is changing that planning level to really reflect where that work is going to be done. So we're kind of doing some pre-planning here, and then when we get into release planning, we can confirm all of that work. This might not be done here on this specific screen, but you can absolutely do it here and make it happen. So I'll save that. So now we have the company work, the epic, we have the features at the art level, and then we have the work down here at the PI level. This is kind of a typical beginning for a team that's starting out and doing an initial safe run. One thing that I do want to do, because we're a go-getter team here, the bananas team went ahead and completed that work. So we're going to quick close the bananas work. And I can filter this and show you the closed items on here as well. When I look at that filter, now you can see that there's completed work. And the reason I did this is because earlier you saw me create that budget. Well, this is all I needed to do to start to get some real useful information out of version 1. So when I go back to my budgets now, and I look at the strategic theme budget one more time, now we're actually seeing some useful information. So I can see customer satisfaction was supposed to be 30% of the work, but we've completed 100% of the work, and that was that one story that aligned into customer sat. Now at completion, customer satisfaction right now is going to be 75% of that work. So we're already seeing valuable information rolled up from the work at the team level all the way up into version 1. So this is just a quick example of going from having nothing in the solution all the way through to actually getting meaningful work into the solution. And so that was that was the first part of what I wanted to go ahead and demonstrate. Again, that was the admin role going through the initial setups, and the portfolio role as the portfolio director going into some of that detail. Just a few other things that we can look at the portfolio level. The first one is the roadmap view. So if I look at this roadmap view right now, and we can look and see when we're going to be delivering this. Let me change it into features here, filter this by features. When am I going to be delivering those features? So if I look at my features on the roadmap, it shows me feature 1 is going to be in the April timeframe, and feature 2 is going to get delivered in the May timeframe. So this is how you can go in and see the specific roadmap for the features that we will be delivering. And now we can share this out, whether we publish this or we can share it out in other ways out to the organization. The other thing that we can see here is the timeline view of this. So if I look at the timeline specific view of this, and then take off the filter by feature, now we can see the timeline here for this new product updates. And when we open this up, we can actually see how we're aligning the various different features and which arts those are aligned to. So now we can plan that work accordingly and see exactly what's going to get delivered within our Agile release train. So this is a level of detail where now you can see that, and all this happened just because we aligned the dates under the features. Those features are rolling up into that specific epic. Okay, so that was a lot at the portfolio level. It's showing you a couple of details there. The last thing that we can do here is look at our portfolio Kanban. We can start to manage these features on this Kanban board. So I can manage the epics, or I can manage the features themselves. Let's move feature 1 into implementing, and then we'll go ahead and move feature 2 here into funnel. That's going to get started in a little bit. So version 1 supports multi-level Kanban. So this is the feature view of this. I can also turn off the filter for feature, and then we'll just see the epic. So this is the epic Kanban board along with the different statuses. If I wanted to, I could even have different statuses at this epic level versus the statuses at the feature level. So that's just how version 1 can support from starting the new idea at a strategic theme all the way down to the individual work level. One more thing that's very important, I think, on the SAFE side of the SAFE map and what SAFE talks about is our ability to do collaboration. And one of those areas is communities. So in version 1, we have built-in communities of practice, and you can create your own communities out there. I encourage every portfolio to create their own community, and this is one area where you can go ahead and do that. I know, Matt, you've had some experience in these communities and these wiki pages. I know you and I worked on a couple of SAFE implementations for version 1 as well. So yeah. Any tips or tidbits on that?
No, it's been a great usage. When we think of communities of practice, of course, we're trying to drive expertise. If you look at the underlying, get people to be motivated and to drive from a, purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And of course, that's what community practices are about. And when we form cross-functional teams, often, we want to keep those people that are doing Java together. So that's what the community practice allows you to do is, of course, format it out. And within version 1 itself, in particular, it gives a space for those people meeting to capture, their team norms, how they operate, and then things they're trying out and practices. And I'm going to use the word good practices, because they're always learning something new. And with this, of course, you can tie it and what we call pin a topic to different areas of the product. So it helps drive some consistency. It helps to expose people to new ideas. And of course, as an organization, it's a way to continuously drive to get better, that relentless improvement.
Great. Yeah, absolutely, Matt. I completely agree. The pinning of those topics over here, you can pin them to the team rooms and on any screen. It's been extremely, extremely useful, especially for onboarding and those types of usages. And you can also include conversations and other things in there. So having these topics and our ability to create these communities and grow for the organization is extremely important. All right, so let me just go back to this one picture real quick. I really like this view here, and this has been actually resonating extremely well with a lot of our customers, especially as we're looking at rolling out SAFE. So what we've looked at so far here is the left side of this, what we call the V. So we've looked at strategy all the way down to stories and defects. Right now I'm going to switch my role one more time, and I'm going to become the release train engineer. So the release train engineer is going to look really from this level, maybe from the features and epics, and we're going to try to see how this is getting deployed using DevOps. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about DevOps, and then we'll finish up by going through a team example and showing you what a team can do in terms of team execution. So let's jump right back into the demonstration one more time. So a couple of PIs have passed. We've got some real data now in the solution. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go over and look at another epic. So here's a specific epic, and this is the detail page for a specific epic. I can see all of the stories, all of the things that have happened for this epic. This one happens to be blocked, so there are some blocking issues on the epic. If I want to look at the details, there's 47 stories, and probably only 27 of them are done so far. So I can look at the details of these stories. I can drill into a specific story in version 1, and because we're aligning these stories to our DevOps component, I can actually go into the delivery side of that and see all the way down to the commit. So I can see each commit that's happened in Git. I can see which packages those are associated to and which phases of the package those individual stories are. So these are phases that are happening in terms of our release automation and our release orchestration, where we're merging code, we're running regression testing. All of this happens after the actual story is done from a team perspective, but still needs to happen from a release and release train engineer perspective. So this is one view of that and how I can go in and see some of the details on the story. What I still don't know is how much of this specific epic is actually completed. So when I go into under PI planning, I can actually run a report, and this shows me our delivery at a glance. So this is showing me each of these boxes represents one of those stories. All of the darker shaded ones, these are each done work. These are done user stories, but not all of them have been delivered. If you can see on the right-hand side here, only 21% of my stories for this specific epic have been delivered, but 45% of them are done. So we've got all of the work done, but we have some more phases to go through in order to get that work delivered out the door. Again, each of these boxes represents a specific user story that I can then go into and see the details from an epic perspective all the way down. I can also expand on that and show me the same view by feature. So when I open up this specific epic, I can see exactly which features are ready to go, which ones have been delivered, which ones are going to be done soon. I can also look at the numbers of those, the percentages, or the overall count of those as well. This type of view into the visibility of what I can see there is extremely helpful from the left side of the V, which is the strategy and the development side, all the way over to the right side, which is the delivery. Now, when I open up this epic one more time, I've got a couple of links that I've actually added on here. One of them is looking at those revisions. So not only can I go to the story level, but I can go all the way down into the file level from an epic perspective and say, show me all of the changes that are out there. So as I open up the details now, and I'm looking at our DevOps continuum side of the house now, I can actually go down and we can flag individual files as being risky files. Those are ones that have a lot of defects on them. And if I wanted to, I can go all the way down and drill down into the individual file names and see which files are specifically risky. This allows me as a portfolio director or as a release train engineer to really understand where we need to spend more time, where we have additional risk that we might want to take into account as we look at the testing that we're doing overall for these specific uses. So the way I'm able to get these files and align them to my epic is because each story and each change that we make on those stories are being captured, and then we're tracking those changes, and then stories are aligned up through this specific epic. So this is how I'm able to see all the way down to the file level and every change that is associated to those specific files. I can also see some performance measurements on this. So if I go into performance measurements in DevOps, I can see those risky files in terms of past releases and how well have we done in terms of delivering on those risky files, and how many changes do we normally have that are risky out there. So we can track a risk index and a risk measurement for those specific files. We can also try to identify bottlenecks as we look at duration and how long it takes us to get through the different phases of our release train and the release deployments into production. So it looks like regression testing right now is a huge bottleneck for this specific company, so we want to go ahead and try to address that specific area. So that's just a little bit on the DevOps side of what VersionOne can provide. Again, the way we do that is by managing the left side of the V, which is the strategy, and the right side of that V to delivery, and we tie all that together via the user stories. The last view that I'll show you on delivery at a glance is this is a package view. So each of these represents a specific package of things that we're delivering, and we can highlight things like rogue commits and where work is still being done. This allows us to track a lot more of those details. So that's a lot that the release train engineer will be working on in terms of the management of that. The next thing that we're going to go into as we leave DevOps is now talking about some of the additional ceremonies and how do we give the program level or the program management team some additional visibility. So as we leave the DevOps component here, we're going to go in and we're actually going to go into a specific planning room. And this is a planning room that we've set up specifically for this portfolio. So as I go into this portfolio planning room, this is going to show me some high-level metrics for my specific portfolio. In this case, for the call center delivery portfolio. On the left-hand side, you can see I've got my roadmap already set up here. So I'm looking at my specific roadmap, filtered for innovations and integration. So I just want to see the innovation side of that. These are when we're going to deliver on all the epics. And then on the right-hand side, I have some additional metrics in here. So I've got a progress report, a portfolio item progress report to show me how well each of those are doing in terms of completion and how much we have left to go. I put a first half burn down in there so I can see how well we're doing across that portfolio and are we going to deliver on what we expect to with a little optimistic view there on that burn down. So that's what that dotted line is representing. And then I have the feature completion here so I can see how many things are behind schedule. So as I look at this is showing me and letting me focus in on just the specific portfolio items that may or may not be behind schedule. So this is the type of room that you can set up at the portfolio level, which will let you drill into and see specific details around areas that may be important for your specific portfolio. You can also customize this, and any of the analytics panels that you want to put in there, you can put in yourself. And if there isn't a report that you want to see already, you can generate that own report through our custom WYSIWYG report writer and then create that report for yourself. One last report here that we have that I like to use here is the scorecard. So the scorecard is going to be filtered for this specific portfolio item. So this is a scorecard around this specific planning room, and it's showing me some high-level metrics across the top, percent complete, and what's the backlog makeup of what we're doing. It shows me that we have those blocked work items and the stories that might be blocked out there. So at a high level, I get some good overall metrics. I can then go down and look at my work item cumulative flow, or my portfolio item cumulative flow, and how are we moving things along from a work item or a portfolio item. So we can track that as we go forward. This is just a nice view to look at on a regular basis. I can also go down and look at things in terms of context and my planning levels. So it shows me the detailed work that we're doing either from a team level, a planning level, or the portfolio item level. So all those levels that you saw me set up earlier, we can now go into and filter down here as a portfolio item. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is look at some of the ceremonies that we can do. Well, we're going to look at PI planning first. So we're going to stick with our release train engineer, but now we're going to look at things from a planning perspective. So we're going to leave portfolio, and we're going to skip over product planning, which is where we could do our backlog and the details. And we're going to jump into our PI scheduling now. So when I jump down into PI scheduling, I'm going to change my planning level. And we're going to do our PI scheduling under easy support, under my development portfolio, for call center, just for this call center art. And that call center art now has 3 different PIs, PI1, PI2, and PI3. So as I go into that PI, the first thing I see here are the features that are planned into my art that have not been scheduled into one of my PIs. So for instance, accounting integration, which has the highest weighted shortest job first, should be put into this PI1. So I'm just going to drag that feature and put that right over here into PI1. So by dragging it and dropping it over, I've gone ahead and put that feature here into PI1. If I hover over these details here, it's showing me the capacity for PI1. So the target for the features is 150 feature points or swag points, and I'm at 143. So that's about the limit of where I want to go. I can see if I want to add more in there, but you can do this type of capacity planning here for that level. The other thing that you can see is I've got objectives set up in here. So either at an art level, I can put my objectives for an Agile release train, or down here at a PI level, say in PI1, I can put my objectives out here for PI1 as well. So we can set what the objectives are going to be for these different levels. And then down to the team level, I can create the team level objectives. So as we're going through PI1, PI2, we can set our business value plan number and how they align to these objectives. And then we can set our business value actual number. And that will allow us then to come up with some sort of a performance metric or performance index of how well we're able to actually deliver. And this is the number, the BV actual, will be coming from the business team, either at the very end of the PI or when we deliver on that specific objective. What this will then allow me to do is predict, using a performance predictability report or a program predictability report, how well we'll be able to deliver in the future. So this is showing me the average. So this gray line here is showing me the average. The green box at the top there represents kind of the 80% view. So we want delivery or performance of the business value actual to be in that 80% range. And it looks like on average we just got in there. The core app team has been doing a solid job, so they're already up in there. The mobile app team has just gotten into the 80% range, and the platform team, while they have a little bit of a dip in PI2, it looks like they're coming back. So we expect that their performance and their program predictability will hopefully match the rest of the organization, and we'll be able to continue moving forward with a very positive trend overall. So this is a nice view into the program predictability and using those objectives and those goals to see additional details as we move forward. One of the other areas that we want to make sure that we do as we're looking at our PI planning, and as we look at the details here, is being able to look at this in terms of the dependencies that we may have under here. So we've got a number of different stories, and if we look at a story specifically, we can show relationships under those, and you can see that this specific story card has a number of dependencies out there. So I want to be able to see those dependencies. I want to be able to track those dependencies on a specific dependency board. So one area that I can do that is in the VersionOne program board. So this program board now will allow me to see, in this case, the teams on the left-hand side, the darker shaded boxes with the little orange on the side there. These are features. These represent features, and some of them are almost done. This one actually is 67% done. So we can see the features that we have, and then we can also look at the different teams. In this case, I'm viewing this for the platform team view, and it shows me which teams are going to be in my way, or which teams do I have upstream or downstream dependencies on. So in this case, as we look at the platform team, we can see that the core app team has a lot of work to do in order for us to get the RMA feature and the order shipping feature out the door. And simply by hovering over these, it shows me exactly which work is dependent upon which other things. So it's very easy for me now to see the dependencies, and we can actually track this work on the dependency board. I can move things in or out of this. Things that are unplanned have not been put into a sprint yet, so I can see the details there, as well as things that are out of scope. So this type of view allows me to really hone in on exactly which teams need to be involved, where I have those various different dependencies, up and down the dependency stream, and then overall, how do I go ahead and make sure that we can get that work out the door and hopefully get that shipped and these features done when we have promised that they will go out the door. So from a release train engineer perspective, we looked at DevOps and the strategy portion of that and how we can go from strategy all the way down to the file level and to the delivery level. We looked at portfolio planning in a planning room where we've set up our metrics and our dashboards in there. And then we finished up looking here at a PI planning example where we drilled into the details of all of that. We're going to skip over sprint planning today, but you can go in and plan all of your sprints down to the detail level, and also planning your capacity areas in there as well. And we're going to finish up by switching hats one more time and becoming a team member in the specific team. So when I go into tracking, we can go into our specific team rooms. Actually, I'm going to do it over here on the right-hand side. So these rooms here show me the team rooms that I'm a member of. And when I go into my Fellowship of the Scrum team room, I'm able to see now all of the work that we have that's scheduled up for our specific team. On the right-hand side, I'm showing a scorecard, and that scorecard is showing me a filtered view of this for my specific team and how we want to see all of that work showing up. In the middle section here, we're showing the card wall, and this happens to be sprint number 5. So the details here are sprint number 5. Here's my average team velocity, and then my burn down over here on the right-hand side. So we can see a lot of the details and some of the helpful metrics on the right-hand side. To do my daily Scrum meeting, what I would do is I would hover over let me make it a little bigger here. I can hover over my name and click on my icon here. And this is just showing me the tasks that I have to complete. So on a daily basis, we'll come in here, we'll say, hi, I'm Mark. I'm working on this task. It's still in progress, but I'm going to track this. I've actually put 4 hours on this already, and I'm going to put 1 more hour. I have one more hour left to go on that. So that's a way I can track my actual effort and my remaining to-do hours. When I save that, that goes ahead and reflects in my burn down. It also shows this is in progress. I can move it over to completed when I'm done, and that's going to show that that specific task is completed. All I needed to do to get the work into here is to do the sprint planning and plan that work into sprint number 5. So I can see the details and how I plan that work into sprint 5. The other view that I can see here when I'm doing my testing is on a test board, so I can actually track the different tests that we want to go ahead and execute on. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and have we passed or failed those tests. So you can set up the various tests here on the test board and let you go ahead and complete that various work. And it also allows you to very easily identify those blocking issues. So you have a blocking issue already, we can drill into that detail and see those blocking issues and attack those as part of our daily stand-up. The last team area that I want to show you here, because we also have Kanban teams for easy support, is a Kanban style board as well. So the Kanban team is going to do things a little bit differently, as you might expect. What we're doing here is we're limiting our WIP. So we want to set those WIP limits, and we have those across the middle section there where I have 3 for ready and 2 for dev. We have different statuses that we've gone ahead and set up as well, so you can see the various different statuses there. And then we also want to be able to manage and track the flow. So you can see how long these various different stories have been in these different areas here. And then we can also track how long it takes us to get through those. Instead of the burn down on the right-hand side, we're actually looking at, on the upper right here, we're actually looking at cumulative flow as well. So we can track cumulative flow across the different time and how long different stories were in the different statuses. Instead of doing it specifically by tasks, we're again moving these statuses along on a Kanban style board. So you can mix and match these. You can actually still put tasks on these if you wanted to as well. And then when I want to add new items from the backlog, here's my upcoming backlog, and I can just drag that work over and put that right here on the board as well. So the team experience really is streamlined to help you and your teams get to the work that you need to get to and then get back to what you want to do. We mentioned those communities, so this is where you could go in and pin those topics, those different communities onto your pages. So this is very handy for team rules of the road, what you want to be done, maybe how you want the team to interact. This specific page and all the team rooms can be bookmarked, so you go right into the specific view for your teams so they can go ahead and get their work done on a quick basis. So with that, I'm going to finish up by looking at the scorecard, and then I'll open it up for Matt for questions. So the last report is a view of the VersionOne scorecard again. This is specifically for the products portfolio, but I could drill down further into any of the different levels that we already looked at, planning levels, portfolio item, as well as the team levels. And you can see the details, both the high-level details across the top, my burn-up or my cumulative flows by work item or by portfolio item, as well as the details for each individual release and PI. So with that, I think that's all I had to go through, Matt. I know that was wasn't a lot of screens.
Yeah, is that all? Yeah, so that's awesome, Mark. Thanks so much for the walkthrough. And nice job of covering tons of ground in a very short period of time. Mark and I always joke, we can kind of set up and get you ready to roll, with a safe type construct in 7 minutes. But there's a lot to learn and a lot to digest about, the different capabilities and functionality and the depth of what, the different layers might need. And so, Mark, that was great. We do have some great questions from the audience. We have about 6 minutes left, so I want to try to get to some of those now. I've been trying to answer some in flight, so hopefully we can get to, if you didn't get your question answered yet, we'll try to hit it now. If we don't get to it again, like I said, we'll respond after the session here. So first one here, I'm just going to hit, it's what version of VersionOne is required to see planning levels under admin? The first question. And Mark, Mark Vincent, thanks for your question. That question, I believe it was late 2015 when we came out that, our winter 2015, when we've added levels to our planning levels. And we added that for a couple of reasons. There's one for visibility, so it makes it easy for you to understand what the different nodes in the tree are. Seeing that little nodule and knowing that this is a PI, it enhances the usability of the app, and also it provides for some nice reporting from the standpoint, and we can now filter and say, just focus on what's in the PIs for a particular train or something like that. The next question down is what's the difference between story points and feature points, or swag? There's multiple questions on swag. Mark, do you want to try to give a shot on that?
Sure. So swag, we've had it in for a long time, and the way I look at swag, it really is the rough order of magnitude, or the big picture number for a feature. So before I know all of the stories that are going to go into that feature, we kind of try to do a relative estimate at a feature level, and that would be the swag number. So I might say, we think the last feature about this size took 120 story points, so I would put a rough order of magnitude swag of the feature of 120 swag points, and then I know that when I build up my stories into there, when I get to 120, I'm about done, or I should be about done for that. So that's really how I see it used mostly, is to before we know the stories, to give us an ability to do some capacity planning at a feature level.
Into it, and it's kind of along the same line as being able to see the story points in the art. Children, basically the stories down and planned into the PI, do they roll up to the art? And that one, the short answer is yes. I don't know if you saw in the scorecards. There's multiple layers of scorecards we have in VersionOne. One of those that Mark did show us was for a particular PI, for the PI release. And you can then see both the roll-up of the swag from the features, as well as the roll-up of the estimate points, and of course actually done hours and estimate hours if you're using hours. So the multiple layers of estimation. One from one gentleman, the list types and config changes applicable to the team level or for the entire enterprise, or something configurable in between. Mark, you want to try to take that one real quick for us?
The list types for the team level, is that what the question was?
Yeah, how are they configurable across the different layers of the organization?
Oh, absolutely. So VersionOne has this concept of display workspaces. So at different planning levels, depending upon how you want to set it up, you can set up different list types, and then you can enable those list types at those planning levels. So I can have 2 statuses for one planning level, for one art, and I can have 3 statuses for another art, for instance, if you wanted to go into those details.
Cool. Very good. And I think we have just time for a couple more real quick ones here. I think we got to a couple of these, but there's one question around, can you set width limits from Kanban? And that was on the portfolio Kanban board, and the short answer is yes. And these Kanban limits can be set at the different layers. So for example, if I have, if we're running through the portfolio and we're tracking our epics, yes, you can track it there. You have different settings there, and I get down to an actual release train or even a value stream where we're tracking capabilities. You can have different levels of WIP at each layer, or different settings, I should say, for each. One question came up around in the DevOps, when you mentioned something about risky file. Let's make this a quick last one, and we'll get the rest answered later. But what makes a risky file, Mark? Yeah, that's a very good question. So we've got a couple ways that we're looking at risky files. The main one is if I've deployed a file into production, and that file was associated to a user story because we did a commit on that, and then later we find that there was a defect that was associated to that specific user story. So when there's a defect associated to that got into production, we can actually track back to the files that were used in that story, and then we can flag those as potentially risky files.
So that's one way that we can go ahead and do that. And we're also looking at doing things like files that are used often, where you can go ahead and look at that as well. But right now it's really based on, are there defects that happen on that file, and we can track that and see the details of that.
Great. So again, we're at the top of our hour here, so I want to let everybody go today. But hey, look, please come out and visit version1.com/safe to learn more about this explicit topic we talked about today. And want to thank everyone for joining us today. We really enjoyed it. Hey, it's been a short time, and Mark, you covered a ton of areas, so thank you for that. Remember, we'll be sending you out a follow-up email with links to download the presentation and the recording of the webinar. Those of you guys that we didn't get questions answered, we'll answer you guys directly. We do look forward to our next webinar. You can see here it's called Unify Agile and DevOps with version 1. And we're really looking forward to it. So until we see you again, thanks and have a great day.